A man stood before his friend's grave, lost in deep thought. Unable to forget what had happened in the small forest, the demonic figure with a baseball bat not only killed his friend but also enslaved numerous communities. Now, the days of humiliation were over, and the war of revenge was about to begin. To deal with this formidable enemy, Negan, Rick devised a meticulous plan. Step 1. They prepared numerous steel plates within the hilltop to create a fleet of war vehicles, ready to charge directly into the Savior's headquarters when the time was right. Step 2. They had to eliminate Negan's informants, and this required Dwight's help. Dwight wrote down the locations of various lookout points on pieces of paper and shot them out with a crossbow. Daryl was the one meeting up with Dwight.
But if it's the others...
The next step is to eliminate all the sentry points in the intelligence. The first one was in a tree by the highway, where people wouldn't even notice him. But today was the day the man died. The man died not knowing who shot him. With each lookout point eliminated, a mark was crossed off on the paper. Next was the second one. One of the saviors was working diligently on sentry duty when two hands sneaked up on him from behind. Daryl walked out. This operation had to be done silently to prevent them from using their walkie-talkies. Next was the third one. It was a research facility, and the lookout was impaled from behind. The man of action is none other than Morgan. Morgan had abandoned his peaceful ways and was now determined to eradicate these demons. The fourth lookout was situated in a wooded area. The man was casually observing the bound zombies, but when he turned around, death awaited him. Rick's face is expressionless, and there's nothing but indifference in his eyes for these people at the Saviors. Although the man's death was inevitable, Rick paid him no attention and searched through a box for supplies. As the man neared death, he taunted Rick, reminding him of their encounter in the small forest where Rick had pleaded like a dog. The man believed that Rick's resistance against the Saviors was futile, and that even his son was doomed. Rick remained calm and simply crossed off the last lookout point on the paper. When Rick left, he cut the ropes binding the zombies. With this lookout point cleared, Rick signaled the Alexandria Safe Zone convoy, and they arrived shortly after. Half an hour later, on a vast plain, the caravans from Alexandria's Safe Zone, the Kingdom, and the Hilltop joined together. Almost all the fighting members of the three communities had come, and now they were gathering, getting to know each other, forming a force ready to fight for their freedom. The three leaders stood on the cars and delivered their pre-battle speeches. They were prepared, waiting for tomorrow's action. Of course, with their numbers, they couldn't completely wipe out the Saviors in one go. That's why Carol and Tara had been out luring zombies for the past few days. This massive horde of zombies was their gift to the Saviors. The next morning, the zombies had entered the Saviors' territory. Daryl and Morgan arrived at a crossroads, meeting up with Carol. Their mission today was to guide the zombies smoothly into the Saviors' stronghold. After they left, the cars exploded instantly. The towering flames and tremendous explosion sound attracted the zombies to advance. Inside the Saviors' stronghold, the people heard the explosion and sent a small team to investigate. There was some speculation as to whether it could be a trap, but it was dismissed outright by Dwight, claiming that it could have been caused by a previous road bomb with a dud now accidentally touched by a zombie. Rick had anticipated the Savior's response, so he had placed a steel wire across the road, rigged to explode if any vehicle touched it. It'll lead the zombies in that direction. Just after the convoy left, Dwight lit a cigarette, but he didn't smoke it, he just looked around and put it out. It was a code word that Dwight and Rick had agreed on, signaling that it was time to strike. One modified car after another drove in, fitted with iron plates that could withstand bullets. As the convoy of modified cars from the three communities arrived at the Savior's doorstep, they assembled there within 3 minutes. Negan's informant was silently eliminated. Negan didn't know the Saviors were surrounded. Everyone was ready, and Maggie raised her hand. The reason why they shot into the air was because they agreed that Negan had to die, but they could give the others a chance to surrender. Soon after hearing the shots, Negan came out with his 5 deputies. Negan was slightly surprised to see the situation, but he didn't show any fear, as if the situation was always under his control. It's really hard to know if Negan is really confident or pretending to be calm. Negan then said in his strongest tone that he really didn't see the need for them to shoot each other, that he cared about his men and didn't want them to die on the battlefield. So Rick, what can I do for you?
Dwight. Your name's Simon.
Regina.
Rick, I'd feel remiss.
No. The Savior's inside. Y'all can live right now.
After Rick said that, they didn't think about surrendering. They didn't seem to believe that Rick and the others would be able to break through the place. Negan replied with confidence, asking if his people could surrender. Would Rick's small patrol let them go? Finding it a lucrative deal, is it possible that Negan has another plan? Soon, a sneaky figure emerged, and it was the Hilltop's leader, Gregory. Sure enough, Gregory runs to Negan, who brought him out for the purpose of having Gregory command the Hilltop members back.
They will no longer be welcome. Their families will be thrown out and will be left to fend for themselves. Or you won't have a home to go back to. Go home now.
The members of the Hilltop looked at each other, and Maggie also allowed them to make their own choice.
All I have at the Hilltop are a bunch of books and an old lobster bit.
Doesn't look like anyone's going, does it?
Hilltop stands with...
The Hilltop stands with Maggie.
Simon was furious when he heard this. He was the one who took Gregory in. He thought Gregory would be able to order these people around, but he didn't realize that Gregory didn't have much authority at all in the Hilltop. Morgan sighed. The team sent to investigate the explosions appeared in the distance. Morgan hid quickly behind a pile of garbage bins. The car is getting closer and closer. There's no chance of surviving this kind of explosion. Seeing the smoke in the distance, Rick nodded to Maggie, knowing everything was going according to plan. However, they needed to act quickly as the zombie horde was also closing in. Negan finally realized the seriousness of the situation.
This is the only way. You lieutenants!
Maybe we could take a time out here.
No, this has to happen now. You're gonna have to make up your minds.
Negan is now blue in the face. Rick seemed to recall something and said with a playful tone, "There's something inexplicably familiar about that phrase."
9, 8, 7.
The gunshot rang out, and Negan's group quickly fled. Rick and his people never intended to launch a full-scale attack inside the Savior's compound, as it would come at a high cost. Instead, they directed their fire towards the house, leaving the Saviors with no place to hide and attracting the nearby horde of zombies. Morgan and his group heard the gunshots and realized that the war had begun. The zombies had also arrived at their location. Rick's strategy was unfolding flawlessly, one step after another. Next, Carol and the others would join Rick's group. Daryl rode his motorcycle, leading the zombies towards the Savior's compound. Upon hearing the second explosion, Rick knew the zombies had entered. Maggie sounded the car alarm, and they proceeded to break open the gate, allowing the zombies to flood in. Today, the RV that had been their companion for a long time was also about to be sacrificed. Daryl blasts the last 2 bombs and takes off down the side road in style, and the zombies will follow the sound. The explosion of the RV served as a direction guide for the zombies. Negan was dodging bullets. He never thought he'd see the day. Rick naturally saw Negan and kept shooting at him. Rick's eyes are only left with Negan. He can't hear anything outside. Luckily, Gabriel pulled Rick back and he came to his senses. The zombie horde has already arrived here. The most important thing is to get out of here and leave the rest to the zombies. Rick took a quick photo and drove off in his car. Gabriel got in his car and was about to leave when he heard Gregory calling for help. As a priest, Gabriel was capable of killing, but he couldn't help saving lives. He rushes out again. There were still people shooting at Gabriel upstairs. He hid behind a stone pier and reassured Gregory not to panic. Just wait for the right moment. Gregory nodded his thanks. As soon as he was finished, the saviors above started shooting again, causing Gregory to panic. Gregory then sees the car with the rattles and he has a sudden thought. Gabriel realized something was wrong and told Gregory not to do anything and to wait for his chance. But the old man doesn't listen to Gabriel. He's already scared out of his wits. This ungodly fellow got away with Gabriel's car. Gabriel doesn't have time to complain. The zombies have all come in. Now, the place is filled with zombies, and there is simply no way to escape. Finally, Gabriel ran into a trailer and escaped. Still breathing heavily, at that moment, a familiar voice came from behind him. It was Negan who was still alive, but the zombies have surrounded the area, and if no one comes to Negan's aid, he's dead for sure. Rick and the others can be said to have achieved the first step of victory, but the saviors have not yet been eliminated. Apart from the base camp, there are still many outposts and strongholds. We can't give the saviors a chance to catch their breath. Otherwise, when they come to rescue Negan, this operation will be meaningless. Gabriel didn't show up. They couldn't wait any longer. They had to take action immediately, because there are so many outposts. They're splitting up this time. Morgan, Tara, Jesus, and others formed a group. Daryl and Rick were in a group. The Kingdom as a group.